Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Monday's episode of Ask Eman, where we're going to be here for the next hour to take your questions, brothers and sisters, and get them answered for you authentically according to the Quran and Sunnah as usual. So to give us a call, dial 0203 515 0769. Otherwise, for all our other options, such as our WhatsApp number, email address, and our YouTube live stream, you can find all of the details coming and going at the bottom left side of your screen, inshallah. So without further ado, I'll be your host for today, and joining us is Imam Wasim Kempson. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. How are you today?
Wa alaikum salam. Very well, jazakallah khair.
Alhamdulillah, Shaykh. So as we start every show, I'd like to ask you for a short reminder, Shaykh, and then we can get started with some questions, inshallah.
Inshallah. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my sisters and viewers at home. So I want to mention that Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, خاطب الناس بما يفهمون, that you should speak to people and you should address people in a way that they understand. أتريد أن يكذب الله ورسوله, would you like or that they would deny Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now this very important narration falls exactly in line with what Allah tabarak wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran. أدعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, that you call to the path of your Lord with hikmah, with wisdom, using the Quran and the Sunnah. Now, da'wah, calling people to Islam, is on the one hand very simple. We're calling the people to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but at the same time also it is an art, meaning that there are certain principles and certain guidelines that we should adhere to ensure, inshallah ta'ala, that that message is delivered in the correct way. And this narration of Ali radiallahu anhu is very important for us, that you should understand your audience, you should understand the person that you're speaking to. And we find in the Quran a number of different ways of how the Prophets alayhim salatu wasalam, how they would differ, or they would differ from the people who were calling to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophets ﷺ, yes, would call to Tawheed, worship your Lord. And there are examples of, for example, Hud and Salih and Shu'aib alayhim salatu wasalam. This is mentioned in different places in the Quran, those three sets of prophets, in two different places in the Quran. قال يا قوم اعبدوا الله ما لكم من إله غيره. O my people, you have no other Lord except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Worship your Lord alone. However, each of their peoples had different vices, had different sins, had different forms of disobedience. So therefore the way that they would speak to their people would be different. Okay, for example, we find Shu'aib alayhi salam would, he would say to them, I see you in a good situation. He would level with them because they were well off, they had lots of money. He used to cheat people, but he said, I fear that because you're in a good situation, but I also fear that you will receive the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this was his way, alayhi salam, of speaking to his people. Not just warning, but to try to get to their hearts. And similarly, when we speak to people, we should try to open their hearts and not just come with commands, this is what you need to do and you don't do this. You should deliver the message in a very wise way. It's a very long topic. In fact, books have been written on that, lectures given on it, about how to be wise when delivering the message of al-Islam or delivering the message of goodness. And this is something, inshallah ta'ala, can come through experience, it can come through learning and advice. So I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to allow us to be wise when we give da'wah. Allahumma ameen.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. This is actually something I've been thinking about recently, Shaykh, because sometimes in social media or on just online, I come across people giving da'wah, but sometimes their manner, may Allah reward them for their effort, their manner doesn't look consistent with that of the Prophet ﷺ, because understandably times could get frustrating sometimes, sure, repeating yourself, situations, but sometimes it doesn't come across as it's the way the Prophet done it.
Yeah.
And other things I think can be forgiven,
sure,
but when it comes to da'wah, I think it can't be, because da'wah is what the Prophet done. More than anything else was the message. So I think that's an important element, Shaykh, to remember, that if you're speaking on behalf of Islam, or especially when you're calling people to Islam, whether it's Muslims or non-Muslims, you have to remember how the Prophet done it, alayhi salam.
I think, as a good question, good point to make. I think that to gauge whether what you're doing at any one time is try to imagine that a person who has never ever met you, doesn't know what you do, and has never seen you call people to Islam. Because you might say that, mashallah, previous interactions with other people, mashallah, is very good. And this has some context, albeit very different from what's been done in the past. Maybe, praiseworthy within itself. But let's isolate one incident that a person may have done. And that person who's never met you sees that incident where you think, maybe that wasn't so wise. That person may then judge your whole work on that one incident, which may, within that person who's never come in contact with you before, may leave a negative impact on you. To think, oh, what is this? So it's very important, and you can gauge yourself, is try to isolate every single incident that you do, and imagine that a person who's never met you would see that. How would they feel about what you're doing? If you look at the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you'll find that on any occasion, regardless of the situation, if you see what happened, or the judgment that was given, or the advice that was given, you'll always see a consistency and the central message that was given there. Okay, and no doubt, the way that the Prophet ﷺ gave da'wah, likewise all the Prophets ﷺ, how they gave da'wah in the Quran, and similarly to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, how Islam was able to spread so quickly, subhanallah, to people who had never met Islam before in that way. But in a very, very short period, subhanallah, the people just entered in Islam in their droves. Not that they were forced to, that there was a minority of Muslims who were ruling over a country. Not at all. The Muslims went into a country, and alhamdulillah, the people embraced Islam. This is proof of what? That Islam was not imposed on the people. Yes, it ruled the country, but the people itself also embraced Islam, which is something you can't force people to do. So it's very important for us to look at these important elements of da'wah.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Before we go into our question, what you just said, subhanAllah, it brought to mind that it took 23 years of the Prophet's life in da'wah, correct, Shaykh?
Yeah.
And that 23 years is the result of so much. I think sometimes, Shaykh, myself, and maybe we all do this because I've just realized now, maybe we neglect to look at the efforts of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, and we think that this all came from, this was all from Allah. Of course, as everything is from Allah. Yeah. But the effort, Shaykh, through 23 years, because what brings to mind, a lot of our Muslim organizations now, whether they be charity or whatever, they're in that bracket of 25 to 30 years old, and they celebrate these anniversaries. And we look at the life of the Prophet, 23 years, if you consider it an organization, the impact and change it had is massive. Sure. Is an element of this the hard work that went into it by the Prophet and the Sahaba alayhi salam?
Yeah, so a couple of issues. The first one is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed, Allah Azza wa Jal would will that everybody just be servants and Muslims on earth. Okay? But that's not what Allah Azza wa Jal wants from His creation, to impose Islam that everybody are just servants forcibly. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to have the element of choice in certain matters, in all matters. In fact, and our will is the will of Allah Jalla wa Ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Prophets ﷺ to deliver that message to the people, so the people would then have a choice of what they're going to do. Okay, this is the test for us. So ultimately, yes, everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but things will take a natural course that we have learnt upon existing in this world. This is how things work. Okay. So this is the first point for us to realize. The second one is that the fact that the Prophet ﷺ lived as a prophet and messenger for 23 years, calling his people, and then he passed on ﷺ. The companions didn't take this as a time, look at mashallah, let's have a celebration for 23 years and then stop. But rather it doesn't stop here. Every day that we get is another opportunity to go forward. Every year that passes, may Allah Azza wa Jalla accept what happened in the past, okay, and to give recognition of good works for people, no problem, inshallah ta'ala. But it's always looking forward. Okay, that's what, in any terms of goodness, anything that you do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't keep looking back. Because when you look back on the things that you have done, you can fall into and be deceived by the good that you think that you have done. Okay, it's always important that if you gave charity, forget that you gave charity. You sought rather Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's reward, move on. Okay, look forward to the next opportunity that you have there. Not you keep looking back, oh, mashallah, that day I gave £100. Oh, mashallah, I'll never forget the day that I did that. Okay, don't be like that. Keep looking forward. Charities, organizations who are involved in helping other people. If there's some form of get together, regardless of what they name it for, it's all about looking forward and moving on, not staying still, not, sitting there patting each other on the back and, everyone saying, oh, look how good we are and fantastic we are, and what's the plan for the future? Okay, what happened in the past, may Allah bless you, may Allah reward you, but the most important thing is to move forward and to get better and to do more. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you so much. May Allah reward you. That brings us to the end of this part of our show. When we're back, inshallah, we'll continue with our show. If you have any questions, brothers and sisters, do send them to us, inshallah, or give us a call on 0203 5150 769. You can send us your questions to our WhatsApp number or email address. And if you're watching along on YouTube, you're able to leave your question at the comment section, inshallah. So until we're back, stay tuned. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ask Eman Monday. We're going to be here for another 45 minutes, inshallah. So if you have any questions, give us a call. And if you'd like to send us your questions, then send them to our WhatsApp number, email address. And if you're watching along on YouTube, then you're able to send them to us at the comment section, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Welcome back after the break.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Our next question is going to be from WhatsApp, Shaykh. And the question is, Assalamu alaikum. I was in a prison cell one night, a room with a bed and a toilet. I read aloud my salah and Quran without realizing. Am I sinful?
طيب. Bismillah. Well, offering your salah, I mean, if you're in a situation where you have no other option of the place that you can offer your prayer, then you're forced. It is well known that praying in a room which has a toilet in it is not permitted for us to pray in. But you had no other option. So you offering your prayer in that situation, you had no other option. So may Allah accept your salah. With regards to Quran, it's not entirely necessarily, but again, you didn't know. So there's nothing upon you, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you.
Thank you, Shaykh. Our next question is, Assalamu alaikum. I just wanted to ask if one has to do the missed fastings first before we do the 13th, 14th and 15th fastings of every month.
Okay. So some good news on this one, inshallah ta'ala. And the good news is that every month, these are called the white days of every month. And why are they called the white days? And that's because the moon is at its brightest, the full moon, 13th, 14th and 15th of the lunar month. Now, what you can do, inshallah ta'ala, to increase the reward, inshallah ta'ala, is you can make up any missed days that you have from Ramadan and intend to fast them on the 13th, 14th, 15th. Okay? So, it's not as though you have to do them first and then you do the obligation after. Because the obligation is there, and it's more right that you complete the obligations before the sunnah acts. So you can intend to fast on these 3 days. Your main intention is to make up the obligatory fasts. And inshallah ta'ala, you can get the reward of your obligatory fast, and also inshallah ta'ala, you can get the reward of fasting those 3 white days of the month. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Thank you, Shaykh. Jazakallah khair. Our next question, Shaykh, is I wanted to ask you this before. It's sometimes, Shaykh, you find that you may be worshipping. You're doing your 5 salawat. You're doing your best with your Islam and so on. And sometimes you probably find you lose yourself a bit in a sense of why am I doing this? Of course, we all know we worship Allah and we follow the Prophet ﷺ, but that essence of that deep in your heart, you feel it, you know why you're doing it, and you do it with purpose. I think that's probably the most accurate thing, to do it with conviction and purpose. You stand in salah, you feel it, regardless whether Eman or not, but you stand, or maybe it's a part of Eman, the conviction behind it, but you stand with purpose, and you live your life with a sense of purpose.
Right.
I don't mean purpose meaning I know why I'm doing this and that. I'm sure that's part of it, but just feeling that I'm on the right path.
Right.
And this, rather than I'm in chaos and I'm trying to do this and trying to do that, and at the same time trying to juggle my Islam, and it's important to me. Does that make sense, Shaykh?
It makes sense, yeah. I've got an answer for you, inshallah.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I tried to get it out.
That's right, no problem. It ties in with something that I was listening to this morning.
Okay.
Now, there's a new research out now, okay, that why is it that people feel that time passes quicker as they get older? You don't feel like that when you're young. That when you get older, and how many times do we speak that Ramadan seems to come around so quickly? I don't necessarily agree with the research, because the fact that the Prophet ﷺ told us that reality would come towards the end of time, time would pass quicker. So this is something foretold by us by the Prophet ﷺ. However, this particular research will have an impact on the answer I give regarding how to have a feeling about the worship that you're offering every day. The research says that apparently that the older you get, the quicker time feels for you. And that's because when you're very young, you're constantly making new memories. When you're young, you're constantly making new memories. So everything is new. So you feel as though a year is a year, because everything's new for you. But the older you get, because a lot of the time you're repeating things. You're doing things the same that you did last year. You're doing it again, same job, okay, same kind of food you're eating, same clothes maybe you have, and so therefore you're not making any new memories. So your mind isn't really working anymore. So therefore, if you have something new, it kind of maybe a month or two passes into something new, and then when there's something else new, maybe 3 months later, so you think nothing's happened in 3 months, so that time feels really, really short. So this is why a person feels that when they get older, because they're constantly doing the same thing, that time passes so quickly, not really feeling they're benefiting from the time. How does this connect to my answer? When a person goes to pray and they are in their kind of like automatic mode, Allahu Akbar, recite Fatiha, and they do the same surahs, and they do the same du'as in salah, and they do the same thing time after time after time. Okay, so to combat time not passing so quickly, what did they say? They said, if you wear your watch on your right hand, put it on your left. If you brush your teeth with your right hand, do it with your left. Do things differently so you feel there's a difference, and you're making new memories, so you're concentrating on what you're doing. In your salah, recite different surahs, recite different du'as, so you're concentrating more on what you say in your salah. Okay, so instead of saying Allahu Akbar, Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa tabarak asmak wa ta'ala jadduk wa la ilaha ghayrak. Okay, this is one type of du'a that you can mention at the beginning of your salah. Go memorize another one. So now you have to go away, you have to memorize, and you're focusing on more what you're saying in your prayer. Then you recite al-Fatiha as usual, and instead of going straight into Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar fasalli li rabbika wanhar inna shani'aka huwa al-abtar, Allahu Akbar. Read another chapter that you don't usually read, and if you haven't memorized another one, try to memorize another one. This way the salah doesn't just become, you can do it, with your eyes closed, and you're not meaning that you're not thinking about it. Do more things in your salah that are different, vary it, so you can, inshallah ta'ala, you'll force yourself to concentrate on it, and you'll feel your worship more. You'll feel the worship more, inshallah. If you can instill this, it will make a big difference, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you so much for the answer. That did answer the question, mashallah. In a very practical way as well. Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Now we'll go to our next caller of the show. Assalamu alaikum to our caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Asya and I'm calling from West London.
MashaAllah, Asya. Welcome to the show. And how old are you?
7.
MashaAllah. And do you have your parents' permission to be calling us?
Yes.
Thank you so much. And what's your question?
My question is, what does Allah punish you when you lie to your mother?
Okay then. And do you have any other questions for us?
No.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, so it's a very good question, and first and foremost we should know that listening to your mother is your mother's singly the most important person in the life of a Muslim on this earth as we're living now. Okay, of course our love for Rasulullah supersedes everybody. I'm talking about people who are living with us now. Your mother is above all, and Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran mentions to worship Him alone. Straight after that, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and to your parents you must be good. Now, is there a specific punishment that if you lie to your mother, what is Allah going to punish me with? If I can mention to you a hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, because we are commanded by Allah to listen to what our parents say. The Prophet ﷺ said, do not look at the smallness or the size of your sin. Is it a big sin? Is it a small sin? What happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? Rather, look at who you are disobeying. You are disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Listening to your parents is from the biggest and best things you can do as a Muslim. Listening to your parents, especially when you are young. Your parents, okay, your mother especially, your mother and your father will never send you on a wrong path. They truly love you. Your parents will never tell you to do something which is not good for you. Your parents are always asking you to do things maybe sometimes you don't understand. Why are they asking me to go to bed now? I don't want to go to bed now. Because your parents know that once you get a good sleep, you can wake up fresh in the morning and you can go to school with energy and you're not falling asleep in class. Your parents know because they've done it once before. So whenever your parents ask you to do something, you should always remember, I listen to that. And remember, even if you say something to your parents and you get away with the lie, always remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that you lied. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that you cheated or deceived or lied to your parents. And you can't hide that. So, the good Muslim, the good Muslimah will never lie to their parents because they want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be pleased with them. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to have clean white hearts and that we will never say anything that would harm our parents, and we always listen to our parents and never say anything that would upset them.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Thank you so much for your answer. That brings us to the end of this part of our show. Thank you, Shaykh. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in so far. We're going to be back after our short break, inshallah, to continue with our show. So if you have any questions, brothers and sisters, then stay tuned. And once we're back, give us a call on 0203 515 0769. Otherwise, you have our other options, which are WhatsApp, email, and YouTube, coming and going at the bottom left side of your screen, inshallah. Stay tuned. For now, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back after the break to today's Ask Eman show. We're going to be here for another 30 minutes, brothers and sisters. If you have any questions, you're very welcome to call us, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Welcome back after the break. So we're going to go to some of our WhatsApp questions, Shaykh. Our next one for today is, could you please advise me regarding if a woman can trim her own hair while exiting the ihram after Umrah or Hajj?
Okay, so there's two ways of doing this. Number one, if the sister wants to ensure that her hair is straight, and I know a lot of sisters, they want to ensure that their hair is left nicely, then it's probably advisable get somebody else to trim your hair so your hair is nice and straight at the back. Okay, that's an ideal situation. Is it allowed for you to cut your own hair in exiting the state of ihram? On this situation, the ulama have differed. Some say it is permissible. The issue is that while in a state of ihram, you shouldn't remove any hair. And does removing or cutting your hair to exit the state of ihram while you're technically in a state of ihram, is that violating one of the issues? Okay. So on this issue, we say it is permissible for you to do that. Okay, because you're exiting the state of ihram. You're not removing hair just for the fun of it, but removing hair to exit the state of ihram. If there's nobody around to do that for you, then you can do that yourself. Allahu A'lam.
Thank you, Shaykh. Our next question is, if someone has been far from Allah, feels weak in faith and lazy in performing ibadah despite being close to Allah and observant previously, how do they reconnect to Allah?
So if a person is offering their obligations and feels they feel close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the person has to look at the obligations that they're doing first and foremost, because a person is looking for answers. Where do I look? What do I do? So you have to look at what you are doing, because the Prophet ﷺ told us in a hadith al-Qudsi that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Allah says that a person will not be able to do something which is more beloved than that what I have obligated upon them. So the obligatory actions are the most beloved actions to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the deal is, if you want to put it this way, that if you offer your obligations in the best way that you can, and then on top of that you add the nawafil, you add the voluntary acts of sunan prayers and whatnot, then the hadith mentions that Allah Azza wa Jal will become the sight with which you see, the hearing with which you hear with, the hand with which you extend to hold things, and when you walk, that Allah is with you. It doesn't mean Allah Azza wa Jal physically becomes part of you, of course not. What it means is that everything you hear, you see, you speak, you move, you touch, you will have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help in you being reminded of Him. And this will enrich you, and that you will feel value over what you are doing. You will feel straight away that by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, my Eman is strengthened, and that I feel close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if a person, if I give an analogy, is that they're in a car and they don't feel like getting anywhere. Okay, I'm trying to put the accelerator down, it's not really going anywhere, well, it's not really serving, or it's not fit for purpose, then what do you need to do? You need to look at the car. Is there something wrong with the car? It needs fixing. Similarly, if a person is offering the ibadat, they feel they're doing then you need to look at the quality of what you're doing. Because the formula is, as in that hadith mentions, that the most beloved actions to Allah are the obligations. And if a person does that, and then on top of that, does the sunan acts, the person will feel a difference in their life. If you're in the routine, like kind of AI, kind of automatic mode, then yeah, maybe you're not going to feel it. This is why you need to vary things up. Recite different surahs, recite different du'as, pray in different places if you like. Do something different so you feel what you're doing. And make du'a to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He softens your heart and that you feel the worship that you are offering. Also look at maybe the sins you're involved in. Maybe you're involved in certain sins which are stopping you feeling the beauty of the ibadah that you're involved in. So make lots of istighfar. Naam. Wallahu a'lam.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. Our next question is, I have money in my bank account less than 1 year Do I have to pay zakat, and am I sinful if I don't pay because it's less than a year?
No, zakat is only due after one Islamic calendar year. It's not due before that, so you're not sinful for something that's not due. So if the amount of money that you have is above the nisab, is above the threshold, only when it's been with you for one Islamic year, only then you pay zakah. And then if you keep it after that, then yes, you're accountable for that. But of course, you're not accountable before the obligation becomes upon you. If it's a little bit early, you can pay it early, by the way. If you want to pay your zakah a little bit early, you can do that, inshallah ta'ala, to remove the responsibility.
Thank you, Shaykh. Our next question is a Muslim man and Muslim woman perform salah the same? Does the Muslim man and the Muslim woman perform salah the same? Or is there a difference in how a man performs their sajda and a woman performs her sajda?
The great Imam from the past, Imam Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, from the Tabi'een, he said that there essentially is no difference between the prayer of a man and a woman. Okay, he's one of the great scholars of the past, Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, rahimahullah ta'ala. Very famous statement. There is no difference between the prayer of a man and a woman. However, it is also to be noted that the ulama also mentioned that if a woman is praying outside and maybe the non-maharim men may see her, it is allowed for her to make her body when going into ruku' and sujood a little bit within herself. Not to put her arms out, but to bring her arms in like this ever so when she's going into sujood, for example. That's permissible for her to do. Other than that, then if the woman is in the masjid and or in her home, then the prayer that she has is the same as the man, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best.
Thank you, Shaykh. Our next question is going to be from WhatsApp, and the question is I wanted to ask, how many times is it compulsory to raise your hands in salah?
So the raising of the hands in the prayer, takbirat al-ihram, or the raising of the hands, the saying takbirat al-ihram at the beginning of the salah, is something which all of the ulama are agreed upon, and is a must. The other raising of the hands within the prayer, i.e. before you go into ruku' and after ruku' and after you come up after praying the second rak'ah, these are all sunan acts according to some of the ulama. So even if you did it or you didn't do it, it doesn't affect the validity of your prayer. But at the beginning of the prayer, all the ulama are agreed that you should do this at the beginning of your prayer. Wallahu a'lam.
Thank you, Shaykh. With that, we'll go to our next caller of the show. Assalamu alaikum to our caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
West London.
Welcome to the show, sister. And your question?
My question is, Assalamu alaikum. My question is to Shaykh. What does one do in the Quran, like if someone's just upset with their self, angry within their self, and even though that I'm praying, I'm doing what I'm trying to do in my religion, but what I'm just upset with myself. What would, like, I don't know, when you're angry with yourself, you're just like unhappy with yourself on your heart, you feel like heavy. What's the best dhikr to do, like Allah's names, or is there any salah or any advice that the Shaykh can give me?
Okay, thank you so much for your call. Stay tuned, inshallah, for the answer.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Okay, so if you think about, as Muslims, there are different things which could potentially make us feel upset with ourselves. Okay, one of those things is something that happened when I wanted it to be a particular way. Let's say I wanted something to happen, it didn't happen. Okay, this was Allah's qadr, this was Allah's decree, and you should never be upset about what Allah wrote and it never happened for you. Okay, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that maybe you like something, it's not good for you, and maybe there's something you don't like but it's good for you. Allah knows and you don't know, and that you do not know. Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. So if it's to do with something in the past, let it go. This was Allah's will, and we say Alhamdulillah. You could have never changed it. You could have never ever changed it. That's one. Another potential reason a believer may be upset or down or be hard upon themselves is maybe concerning sins. Okay, now number one, it's a sign of Eman. It's a sign of belief that a believer feels down or upset about certain sins. No one should feel happy about haram. Number one. Number two is that everybody sins. Nobody is free from sin at all. Every single, subhanAllah, every one of us sins. But the best one of us is the one who returns back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yuhibbu tawwabin. And that Allah loves those people who return back to Him and repent and say, Astaghfirullah, Allahumma ghfirli. So, whatever sins we have committed, never despair. Okay, you've done wrong. We all do wrong, subhanAllah. But the best thing for you to do, to remove that, don't be harsh on yourself. But say, you know, oh Allah, forgive me. You can say, Astaghfirullah. That's the best thing for you to say. If you've done something wrong, you feel bad about a sin. Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah, Astaghfirullah. Don't be worried about the future. Okay, just try your best. This may be a third thing that a person maybe feel worried about or anxious or maybe hard upon themselves, that maybe they're not achieving what they want to achieve. All you can do is your best. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can. And that's all Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you. If you just bear these things in mind, inshallah ta'ala, then there's no need for you to be too hard on yourself, that the future is good, inshallah ta'ala, if you turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Thank you, Shaykh. Jazakallah khair for the answer. Thank you so much to everyone who tuned in so far. We're going to take our last break of the show now, and then we'll be back after a few minutes. Stay tuned, inshallah. For now, assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the last part of today's Ask Eman show, where we're going to be here for another 10 minutes, inshallah, for the last part of our show. If you have any questions, brothers and sisters, do contact us or send us your messages. All the details, you'll find them coming and going at the bottom left side of your screen, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Welcome back after the break.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So, Shaykh, this is something we've been discussing between the breaks. I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
So, I wanted to ask you about how many times we say Allahu Akbar in our salah.
Yeah.
And we counted them to be over 20 times.
Sure.
This is minus the adhkar in the salah, just when we're prostrating and so on.
One part to the next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Shaykh, I wanted to ask you in terms of how we should reflect on when we say, how many times we say Allahu Akbar, not necessarily the quantity, but we don't give, or I felt we never give enough precedence, or we never highlight this when we say Allah. Of course, we know we move every time we say it, but we think about adhkar, we think about the Quran we read, our khushu' in our salah. And maybe this is to do with khushu' in salah. When we say Allahu Akbar, Shaykh, how should we be feeling at this moment? What should we be thinking at this moment? How significant is saying Allahu Akbar as a statement?
You know what? It's almost to start this. I'll start answering this. It's like, where does the importance of this dhikr? Where do we put it? And if what comes to my mind now is that our salah, which is the single most important physical act of worship that we do on a daily basis. The fact that you begin your prayer by saying Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, that should tell you how important that phrase is. The fact that you begin your prayer with it. That's the first thing. The second thing is obviously to understand what it means, so that when you say something, you feel what you say. You know, when you read the Quran and you understand the Quran, or those who understand the Quran and they listen to certain verses, why do you sometimes hear them that they cry when reciting the Quran? Why? Because it has that impact on the heart of a person, because they understand, its meaning. So when a person says Allahu Akbar, that Allah is the greatest, what does that actually mean? Just a few days ago, there were some good brothers. May Allah bless them and increase them in all that is good. They did some charity walk up a mountain. And I saw some of their videos. And some of the sights that I saw, what comes, you just automatically you say, Subhanallah, Allahu Akbar. If you know what it means, when you see such an amazing view of mountains and valleys and rivers, and the clouds and the sky, it's just such a beautiful view. It's breathtaking. And then on the tongue of the believer is to remember the one who created that. So when you remember the one who created that, how great and how beautiful that particular view is, how much greater the creator is than that one has been created. If just last week I was on the plane and I was flying over, where would I have been flying over? I think it had been over maybe the Pyrenees, okay? A set of mountains. I'm not sure it was. At least you could see the mountains in distances and all the different shapes above it, and you could see the ice caps, and then you could see valleys. It was, again, just an amazing sight. It's not something you see every day. Not unless you're flying on a plane every day, but for me, it's not something I see every day. And again, it was just something, how amazing that creation is. And you just remember Allah, that Allah is greater than that. So when you say Allahu Akbar, and you move when you're into ruku', and that you're bowing down, and you're saying Allah is the greatest, and you come up from ruku' and you're saying Allah is the greatest. I mean, in terms of translating the meaning, you shouldn't say that. Of course, you have to say in Arabic, Allahu Akbar. And then when you go into sujood, you say Allah is the greatest. And you come up from sujood and you say Allah is the greatest. And you go down again, Allah is the greatest. When you put it in this kind of terms and you try to think about the meaning, it has that much more impact. And in fact, in one salah, you say more than 20 times. And you're reminding yourself in all those positions, when you're standing, when you're bowing down, and when you're in sujood, Allah is the greatest, Allah is the greatest, Allah is the greatest. Whatever language you speak, okay, because if Arabic is not your first language, or you have difficulty understanding the Arabic language, if you just say to yourself in your own language 20 times, Allah is the greatest, and ponder over each time that you say it, just think about what you're saying. Okay, just think about what you're saying. Even when you say Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to Allah. All praise belongs to Allah. When you say that word, you say Alhamdulillah, because sometimes it's just a phrase that you say, but know its meaning. So for you to maybe get closer to its meaning, say it in your own language, not in salah, outside salah, of course. Okay, just focusing on that, outside of your prayer. So you say Allah, all praise and thanks is due to Allah. Alhamdulillah, all praise and thanks is due to Allah. Just to allow you to understand the meaning of that word. Subhanallah. All glory belongs to Allah, and that He is free from any deficiency. If you say it like that. Subhanallah, which is commonly translated as glory be to Allah, but actually it has a deeper meaning than that. It means that yes, glory be to Allah, but He is also free from any imperfections, that Allah is perfect. So once you see something amazing, you say Subhanallah, how perfect Allah is that He created that and allowed that to happen. So this is almost turning into a lecture now, and I don't want to do that because maybe there's some questions we can go through, but it's just a small piece of advice I mentioned to the brothers and sisters about how to, again, this is something that helps your salah to gain khushu' in your prayer. Just understand small little phrases and go through it gradually. And over a period of time, you realize that you are equipping yourself, and really, when you go into salah, when you say this, it's like you are truly surrendering to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, and that nothing else matters because you understand what you're saying. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to have that beautiful insight and understanding in our prayer. Allahumma ameen.
Ameen, Shaykh, thank you. Sometimes, Shaykh, there are questions that we receive which are related to how do I attain khushu' in salah.
Yeah.
And we, of course, a lot of the time, the question is posed from a spiritual place. You know, I do my salah, but how do I connect?
Yeah.
Is this how someone can get started, or is this what is meant by what should be understood as connecting?
Yeah.
Meaning, when you say Allahu Akbar, you know what you're saying,
Yeah.
and you know what you should be feeling while you're saying
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Is that
yeah,
what
it's true. I mean,
khushu' is?
once you realize, what am I doing in my prayer? What are you doing? You're conversing with your Lord. You are talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The hadith mentions that the Prophet said that Allah said, when you say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, that Allah says, Hamidani Abdi, my slave has praised me. Okay? This happens when you pray, subhanallah. So you are conversing with your Lord. Once you realize what you're doing in your salah, then you'll take it serious. If you just see it as something that, this is just what we offer on a daily basis and just want to get it out of the way, then why would you expect anything more from that? You want an enrichment of feeling, and that you're getting close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and once you know what you're saying, okay, and you're pondering and measuring each movement, then it's a life-changing experience. Quite simply, it's a life-changing experience because you're talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day. And then if you're doing that and you're honest and sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you more than you can imagine.
Jazakallah khair, just other things that come into mind, I'm thinking, no, just leave it there. Thank you, Shaykh, for the answer. We'll go to our next caller now. Assalamu alaikum to our caller. Welcome to the break. Welcome to the break. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from? Assalamu alaikum to our caller. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to both of you.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Hamad Tariq from Birmingham.
Sorry, brother Muhammad. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Well, Jazakallah khair. And your question for us?
Question is that if Shaykh could describe me if there is any description of the way Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do ruku, i.e. the position of his elbows, the angle of his elbows, his back as in comparison to the ground, and his position of his knees as well.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brother Muhammad, for your question, and thank you for calling.
Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, mashallah, it's a very good question. And we should all look to trying to perfect our prayer and to do little things in our prayer to make sure that it is as the Prophet says, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. Pray as you've seen me praying. And we have many companions describing how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would pray. So for example, that when he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would go into ruku', that his back would be that if something like Aisha radiallahu anha narrates that it was like kub would be a cup on his back, that it wouldn't spill. So his back would be flat as much as you can, okay, as much as physically possible. And also that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam would place his hands on his knees, not on the sides, but like this. You maybe can't see in front of me, but his hands on his kneecaps like this. So because time is very short, subhanallah al-azim, maybe we can, the brother asks maybe in the next show, or we can maybe expand on the answer inshallah ta'ala. But this is some of the descriptions concerning ruku', and Allah knows best.
Thank you, Shaykh. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in so far. To Brother Muhammad who just asked the question. You're able to call again tomorrow, inshallah, at the earlier during the show, and then we can cover the question in a bit more detail. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in. Until tomorrow at the same time at 7:30. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.